On today's hot sheet, I'm discussing Zillow's CPI Shelter forecast and the Fannie Mae Home Purchase Sentiment Index, the HPSI, for May. Today is Tuesday, June 10th. I'm Tom Toole, and the hot sheet starts right now. Welcome to the Hot Sheet, the industry's only live daily news show on the internet, brought to you exclusively by BAM. The Hot Sheet covers what you need to know about the real estate industry in a 24-hour time period. So we've got two juicy topics today. Good morning, Alicia. Great to see you tuning in. We have the Zillow CPI Shelter forecast, and we also have the HPSI, which stands for the Home Purchase Sentiment Index from Fannie Mae for the month of May. Gary Ashton in the house. What's up, Gary? So let's start with the Zillow CPI Shelter forecast. It got issued last week, and it shows a 0.29% monthly increase in owner's equivalent rent for May. It's down from 0.36%, so a little over a third of a percent in April, with a 3.5% year-over-year rise expected by the end of the year. The rent of primary residence is forecasted to rise just over a quarter of a point, 0.27% in May, and 3.3% annually, while on-market rent growth for single-family homes is revised down to 2.8% for 2025. So what does all this mean? Well, what we're seeing is that owner's equivalent rent, the rate at which it's increasing, is starting to cool. It's continued to cool. And we're looking at some projections. If you look at the chart here towards like the end of the year, when you get into December and April of next year, we're going to see rents continue to cool, which has been the trend. This is what a lot of people are talking about. Zillow did a nice job forecasting all of this, and it's based on predictions from a model that make explicit the relationship between on-market rents and the shelter components of the consumer price index. Now, why I like this is because it actually uses real-time data, unlike what the government does, and they make up numbers all the time. They use age data, so it's very, very helpful here. And when you look at the anticipated rise in 2026 for owners' equivalent rent, it is anticipated at 2.4% for next year, after seeing 3.5% this year. So we're seeing rental appreciation rates are starting to cool. The rental of a primary residence, again, is anticipated to increase at 2.1% in 2026 at 3.3% year over year. And what we're going to continue to see happen, and what I would imagine, is that, rental growth is slowing a little bit. And it's slowing just like home price appreciation. The Zillow on-market rent growth forecasts, they're expecting it to rise only 2.8%, and multifamily units are expected to rise only 1.6%. So we're seeing there's a cooling happening across all different rental data segments here. And when you look at CPI Shelter versus on-market rent, well, the CPI Shelter components, they rise faster than on-market rent growth. Remember, they're a little delayed. It's a little delayed data. CPI Shelter inflection reflects renters paid by both new movers and lease renewals. And lease renewals are a little dicey. I mean, sometimes you're going to see that landlords will renew at a lower rate just because they're happy to keep the tenant in there. So it's a little dated information. It's not the most accurate. And landlord behavior in response to market rent changes, a lot of cases, having as a landlord, I'm a landlord, having 1 month vacant can cost you more than a slight bump in your monthly rental income. So you've got to factor all these things in. And the third factor from CPI Shelter talks about the mobility rates of renters affecting how many face a market rent reset. So we're seeing that rents are cooling a little bit. I mean, that's probably reflective of what's going on in the housing market, affordability. We're seeing that affordability is coming down. It's not down to that 2% target by any stretch that the Fed has, and that's for overall inflation. So this is going to be kind of, where the forecast comes in. And, when you look at these numbers, it's getting closer to that 2% target, especially when you look at the two charts that we showed here. Both predictions for owner's equivalent rent and rent for primary residence are expected to be less than where they are at the end of 2025. The last thing to be aware of here before we move on to the next topic, which is the Fannie Mae Home Price Sentiment Index, is that the next shelter inflation release is going to be Wednesday, June 11th at 8:30 a.m. And I am guaranteeing you Byron will be covering it here on the hot sheet, as long as he's not jet setting around to the Housing Wire events or wherever the hell he's going next. So that's what we got for shelter and forecasting. Let's talk about the Home Price Sentiment Index, because I am clear that this is going to be something agents need to be paying attention to when it comes to expectations for sellers, expectations for buyers, and how to run your business in this climate, especially over the next 6 months, because the next 6 months are not going to be like the last 6 months when it comes to residential real estate. So Fannie Mae, their 2025 Home Price Sentiment Index rose 4.3 points to 73.5, with 5 of the 6 components improving. Here's the chart. Thank you, Haley. And you can see this has been, a little bit of a bumpy ride, more growth than not, but you're seeing some dips. It's not always a straight line. Notably, 45% of consumers expect home prices to rise, and 76% are not concerned about job loss. So you got about half the people expecting home prices to go up. Now, I don't know where these people are, if they're in the South or maybe in the Sun Belt states or in Texas and in Florida. Maybe you have a different expectation than if you're in the Northeast, and that's where this local data is really important. And you're seeing 76% are really excited about the labor market. They're not concerned about job loss at all. And the net share reporting higher household income fell to 9%. So you can see what's going on with family and household earnings. When you look at this, all these charts here, and they've got a lot of good data here. What I want to jump to is the buying and selling conditions report. So Haley, if we could put up I don't know if you have the components chart here. Perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. So look at the differentials here, right? 26% feel like it's a good time to buy. 74% feel like it's a bad time to buy. That's a negative 48% differential in that they're viewing it's not a good time to buy. We're seeing that the net changes are up, but there's a sentiment out there. Just about 1/4 of respondents and 1/4 of people feel like it's a good time to buy. Now, sellers obviously feel a lot differently. 61% feel like it's a good time to buy. 61% think it's a good time to sell. 38% feel like it's a bad time to sell, and there's a 23% differential there on the positive side. So one of the reasons why these numbers don't all add up when you look at good time versus bad time, there's a big differential there, is a lot of these home sellers have to find a place to go. They need to know where they're going to be moving to next, and that's going to be really, really important. And it's something that you need to look at here in terms of there's going to be some conditional things that happen. So as an example, what I'm sharing with you is, the seller that's trying to find a place to go, well, they may not think it's a good time to sell because they can't find something. So if you're looking at these numbers here, what I'd be focused on is one clear thing. And we've said this a lot on the Knowledge Brokers pod. I'm sure Byron talks about it here, is motivation. How motivated are folks and where are you trying to, where are they trying to move to? What's the reason behind the move? The more motivated they are, they're probably falling into that good time because mentally it's a good time for them. If you look at the home price outlook, 45% expect these numbers to go up, 21% expect them to go down. Mortgage rate outlook, 29% go down, 32% go up. Look how interesting that is, that people just really don't know what's going to happen with mortgage rates. And when you see how strong the labor market is, and that tells me mortgage rates are going to be kind of hanging tight there. The job loss concern, 76% of people are not concerned. That shows you how strong the job market is. Even though the numbers have cooled a little bit, they're still coming in above expectation. We've got unemployment at 4.2%. And I think the issue here that we're seeing is the change in household income. We're not seeing a lot of incomes go up. And 19% significantly higher, 10% significantly lower, 9% net significantly higher. So that's really where the mindset is of consumers right now. And that's all the more reason you want to be focused on motivation. So I think that that's a really important takeaway here when you look at these things. Expected price changes over the next 12 months. The average home price change expected is 3.1%. This is a national number. That's the highest since February of 2022. Fascinating. Average rental price change expected 6.6%. Well, that kind of conflicts with the data that we just shared. So it's very interesting to see what people think versus what's actually happening. And if you look at buying versus renting intentions, if they're moving, 68% of people would buy, 31% would rent. So when you see all these expectations, we're going to get into some additional charts here. There's a whole bunch of them, and there's 10 different charts you can download on BAMX, and then there's 2 charts from the Zillow CPI Shelter and forecast data. If you want to get a copy of those and everything that gets reviewed on the hot sheet, sign up for BAMX. This is where you can get access to all of the hot sheet daily downloads, the courses, the bi-weekly masterminds, the role plays we're doing every Tuesday, and the BAMX community. It's probably the best buy in real estate if you want to get better and invest in yourself and your skills. Sign up for BAMX to get all copy all these charts, all curated for you so you don't have to go digging for the research. And when you see these selling conditions, buying conditions, you look at the expected price change, ease of getting a mortgage, 55% think it's going to be difficult, 44% think it's going to be easy. I don't know that getting a mortgage is ever easy in today's climate. And you look at personal finance expectations, 34% expect them to get better, 24% expect them to get worse. And this is something, see how personal this is right here? And this is why it is so critical to have high volume conversations and be talking to people on a daily basis, because transactions are going to be flat this year. There's some people, they think their finances are going to get worse. That's down 7 percentage points. But it's still 24%. 42% expect them to stay the same. Well, if they're staying the same, you know what's going to drive them to make a move? It's going to be motivation. If they expect them to get better, sure, that's an easier one. That's kind of falls in that job or promotional category when it comes to motivation. The people that expect it to get worse, again, they're moving because of motivation. So the vast majority here, you got 66%, that's 2/3 roughly, they're expecting things to stay the same or get worse. And that's going to, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. It's all about motivation. The economic outlook, 36% feel like the economy's on track. 64% think it's on the wrong track. The right track's up 4 percentage points. The wrong track is down 3 percentage points. So again, the thing to realize here is that people are buying and selling regardless of economic conditions. A great question to ask here when people say, hey, the economy's on the wrong track, I'm concerned about the economy. Hey, totally get that. It's a very uncertain time. So just out of curiosity, what is it exactly that you're worried about? And then stop talking. Let the consumer, let the person on the other end of the phone tell you what they're worried about. And then you can address that appropriately, or better yet, bring it back to their motivation. Hey, totally get that. That's a legitimate concern. So what were you looking to accomplish with the move in the first place? What kind of home were you trying to find? Tell me a little bit more about what's going on with you and why we were in touch in the first place. And those sort of questions are going to help you identify the people that will transact in spite of it's a good time to buy, it's a good time to sell, because these numbers are always going to be fluctuating. And there are folks out there that will transact when they don't think it's a good time to, because it's out of necessity. I cannot stress this enough. So when you see all these stats and you see all these numbers about everyone's talking about, you really want to bring it back to motivation and exactly what's happening. So when you get into this Fannie Mae HPSI, I mean, there's all kinds of charts here. I think there's 10 different charts available. I mean, people are expecting that home prices are going to go up over the next 12 months. You can use this data to help educate consumers. I'm a big believer in downloading these charts when you get objections and just showing people the information, because when you do that, it makes it a lot easier. And the point is that there's going to be people that think it's going to be a bad time to move. There's going to be people that think it's a good time to move. And then there's going to be people that move because they've got something going on in their lives. And when we're in an environment like this, that's the folks you want to find, because they're going to transact in spite of everything else. They're going to take all the information in. They're going to look at you as the knowledge broker and understand, hey, this guy or gal knows what they're talking about. And the more information they give me, the better off I can make a really strong decision. So that's what we got on the hot sheet today. Haley, let's wrap up with where the 10 year's at and where the 30-year is. The 10-year is down 0.042 to 4.442%. That's a good thing to see if you're hoping rates are going to come down. We did see rates tick down a little bit lower earlier this week. And let's pull up the 30-year. And the 30-year is coming in today. Well, we don't have today's numbers. It's 6.95%. So like I said, it's down a little bit compared to where it was last week, about 0.02 of a percentage point. We'll see how this how that forecast today. The point is, look at these numbers. These rates aren't going anywhere. Jerome Powell's not going to save you. The rates aren't going to come down. You've got to find the folks that want to transact in this kind of environment. So before we leave, happy 11th birthday to my daughter, Gina. She's 11 going on about 22 right now. I'm sure she's watching the show. She should be in school. We'll catch you next time right here on The Hot Sheet.